porNOgraphy know the drill by now. The drill. The drill. The drill. Oh yeah, what I always have to do is check whether sound is being recorded, because I've had the experience sometimes it just doesn't record it. That's a little frustrating. Yeah. All right. Well, as I remember, it's not too long ago that I named this one. I woke up this morning and I thought, well, what can I do today, right? I mean, what can I do? And the answer was, make a live stream. And yesterday I had this epiphany, this vision, and it said, turn on the chat. You know, that was a bit of a problem because I had said to myself, you know, I'm not gonna stream live anymore because it annoys me. Because it puts a lot of pressure on you when you're standing in front of a live camera. It's very different than recording offline. And the second thing was turn on the chat, and I had said, you know, I won't do that. But now the question is, well, maybe people do have questions, and then they should be able to ask them, because that's what I'm here for, right? To answer questions. And one of the reasons why I disabled the chat is that I was actually afraid that people would say something. But in this case, I actually quite like it, because the chat is accessible during the stream, but you can choose to, you know, that it's just being deleted afterwards. And that's something very important for me, because I don't want people to cling to what other people have said, because it's not their space here where they should say something. I mean, they can during a live session, but in general, commenting on things is a waste of time. It's an absolute waste of time. So all these people that are out there considering themselves to be critics, I mean, they use other people's content or other people's food, right? If you're a food critic, other people's books, other people's music, and they use this to spread their opinion. And some people will say, well, I like this guy's opinion, and other people will say, I don't like this guy's opinion. Well, why don't you just make your own content then? Why don't you just make your own music? You know, if you have so much to say about other people's music, then why don't you make your own music? Because apparently you can't, because you don't have the balls to, and that's the way I see it. Right? There's something that I will stop doing now, and that I have stopped doing, and that is sending people my songs. Because as soon as I send somebody a song, they either say nothing because they actually didn't listen to it, or they give me their opinion. But the thing is, I don't want their opinion. What I want is that they listen to it and do something with it. You know, I want you to listen to it, and either it inspires you, but if it inspires you only to give an opinion, you know, what I want you to do is to do it yourself. You know, I have this one guy, and I think I can consider him a friend, but it's sometimes, it's not really, you know, different stages and stuff. So I send him, you know, now I'm just bickering, and that's okay. Because sometimes we maybe really need to complain about something. But at least I realize that I'm complaining, right? Anyway, I send, you know, I'm just gonna say it, I send him a song. And the reason I sent him a song was to inspire him to make his own music, because I know he can do that, right? I believe in him, I see him, I know he could do it, but he doesn't want to. And why doesn't he want to? Because he did do his own things online. He was sharing quite a lot. But people didn't suck up to him like he wanted to. People didn't praise him, he didn't have millions of followers, and he didn't sell millions of copies of his books. So he simply stopped. He stopped because, like, oh, if they don't worship me, I don't want it. You know, easy way out. Easy way out, man. You're just a chicken. You're actually afraid of this happening. Because you know what it would do to you. They would tear you apart. I mean, you have to be prepared for this kind of stuff. So I decided now to turn on the chat, simply because, you know, I want to know what's coming my way, right? I want to know it. And what he said then, when I sent him the song, he said, "Do you want my opinion on this?" And I said, "No." And then he was pissed off and he said, "Yeah, well, if you don't want my opinion, then don't send it to me." No, I don't want your opinion, because your opinion means little to me. And do you know why it means very little to me? Because you don't make your own music. And then I said to him, well, you could respond with a song of your own. He said, "Yeah, but at the moment I don't want that." Well, if you don't want that, you know, what good is your opinion? You can't make music yourself. You don't talk from the same place that I talk, right? I come from a place, I have made lots of music, you know, that you may find good or inspiring or terrible, but to me that was an act of courage. The first album I made, wow. I mean, I talked about addiction. And I had to figure out how to make music. I mean, just to show you what I'm working with, right? Because I'm just gonna be honest, I have no money, and I mean that. I live with my parents at the moment. I have no money. Age 34, I have roughly like 60 euros on my bank account. That's all there is to it. And all the things that I have scrambled together. That's either things I already had, and there were times where I bought stuff on credit and then I asked my parents for money again because I was on credit, and then at one point I said, "No, I won't buy anything anymore." Yeah, and then, you know, you have a birthday and then your mother comes at the age of 34 and asks you, "Do you want something for your birthday?" And you say, "Damn it!" You know, I'm 34 years old, but in a way, you know, this is a child's dream, right? I mean, I'm that child. That's my dream. So why should I say no to this? And then you say, you know, that was actually 2 years ago for Christmas. My parents asked me if I want something. That was when I was at my lowest point. And I asked for this microphone. And, you know, it's like a handheld device that you can also technically charge, but, you know, the plug broke. So now I'm working with batteries, and it's doing a very good job. I can't use it for this because, you know, it only works with batteries and SD cards, so at the moment, you know, I can't connect it, but that's okay. And that's why the quality, you know, it's just the webcam I'm using, and it's something I got from somebody else because they bought a new one, because theirs didn't work. Oh, no, actually, yeah, they bought a new one, but it didn't work, and then they wanted my old one. which was very terrible, and then I got this one, which is probably an intermediate between very terrible and fairly good. So I'm just using that, right? And I'm working with Linux, which is a very nice and stable operating system. Linux Mint I use, Mate, I think, version Mate, 20 or something, 21. And all the tools I use on my laptop are for free. Sure, I mean, they always ask for donations, but what should I donate if I don't have money? So I also always ask for donations, but you know, I'm doing it anyway because I'm in the position that I find myself in, which means I can do it. So if you're a student or you live at home with your parents still because you go to school, then what's your excuse? I mean, what are you wasting your time masturbating? I mean, you could say I had an excuse because, for what reason? Because I felt miserable. I felt miserable. I mean, you're 30 years old and you're depressed. And you're depressed, man. And you hate this kind of world because everybody's corrupt. And, you know, everybody is only interested in making money. They don't see you as a person. They just see you as somebody either costing you money, right? That's the feeling that the boss gives you. You know, you just cost me money and I have to order you around so that you make the most from my money. They don't even see that the employees are helping them to earn money. You know, they don't see themselves as, you know, we are a team. This is what, you know, John Strelicky talks about in, you know, the Big Five for Life. That's the whole ideal that we should work towards. But everybody I've worked with, you know, they just took me for granted. They just said, you're a piece of shit. I give you money. Yeah, well, I earn that money for you because I deal with your customers. So I found this kind of society very frustrating, and that's talking from a place, you know, I have studied for 9 years. I have learned a lot. I've studied environmental protection. You know, I've studied in South Africa. I could have done research. You know, I could have gone into environmental protection as an engineer and earned 70,000 grand per year by working for the government and pushing through their schemes to make more money with electric cars. But I said, you know, that's such bullshit because everything they do at the moment in terms of environmental protection is electric cars, and that's just so wrong. Because that's not the solution to climate change. You know, planting trees is. So why should I go work for them if it's like selling my soul? So like I said, you know, at the age of 30, you lose all hope in humanity and you lose all hope in yourself. And then at one point you say, you know, fuck it. You know, I'm just gonna use all these emotions and do something with that. And while I was doing it, I was still watching porn. Because what I've realized, that was hot chocolate by the way. Because what I realized was that I don't go from one day to the next. You know, I watch porn and then I don't watch porn and it's suddenly really easy. Right? The way I always say it, I work with transitions, you know. That's not saying to you, oh, keep watching porn, it's gonna work out fine. No, it's work yourself out of it. Maybe you simply don't manage, right? So for me, for instance, it was more important to finish the book that I was writing on at the given time, and I have written about 28, 27 books. More are on its way, but that takes time. So there was a time where I said, oh, let's stand like this. There was a time when I said, it's more important to me to finish the book than to resist the urge to masturbate. Because that is my method, right? That used to be my method. When I was sinking down into a depression, I would use masturbation to propel myself out of it, right? To jumpstart something else. So if I felt like I was really afraid of going for a hike, then I would masturbate before so that I could leave. Of course, that's wasting energy, but at the same time, sometimes it was helping me. And so bit by bit, during the last couple of years, I started to replace watching porn and masturbation with other things. And when I did watch porn and masturbated, I really paid attention to what I was feeling and why I was doing it, so I was observing myself. I didn't look away no more. I looked at porn. I started observing it. I started taking it apart. What am I seeing there? So that's for the people who really can't get rid of it. You know, some people, they just say, I'm done, and they just turn around and walk away. But with me, that wasn't like this. I needed a lot of convincing to stop with this. Because until now, it was like, you know, a warm handshake from a good friend. You know, whenever I felt lonely and sad, that was the warm handshake that I needed. Only, I also was disgusted by myself. Why? Because I felt dirty. I mean, how are you supposed to meet a woman and become a father on the long run, right? That's like in the distance. If you keep masturbating, you feel very dirty down there, very dirty. And that's not something you can just clean away with soap, because that's shame we're talking about. And then the only way you can clean that is by making amends, by being honest about it, by saying, I've done it and now I'm trying to do better. And so one of the things that I had available was a guitar that I bought secondhand for 80 euros. And I just had the feeling I want to have a guitar. It's not that long ago. And then I simply went, because I wanted my fingers to do something else, right? I wanted to teach and train my fingers to do other things. And then I got this guitar, and I have no idea of how to. So the strings are probably on the wrong way or something. You know, I put on new strings, but that's how it came out, right? If some professional musician would listen to this, he would say, well, that sounds really terrible. But to me, it's sound, right? How is a guitar supposed to sound? Just because somebody thinks, oh, this is how a guitar is supposed to sound like. You know, I don't know that. You know, to me, the guitar sounds like how I want to sound. How I want it to sound. And if I record this, I can still bring it to the computer and do something with it, but at least I start with a natural sound. And the thing is, if you look at other kind of instruments, like there's, I don't know how it's called, maybe a sitar. It's like, I watched an anime and there was a girl and she was playing some kind of instrument. Don't really remember how it was called, the anime. Maybe it was a sitar. And what I realized was that if you compare it to one of these guitars that we have here in this kind of Western world, then what you realize is that it sounded almost like it was out of tune, but they were all enjoying it, right? To them it was like, oh, nice. So I realized, well, there are places in the world where this is music. So I simply took this guitar and I started playing around with it. I still have the feeling I want another guitar. So I started with a very simple tune. You can just play around, right? I just want to feel, I want to get a feeling for this instrument. So I simply take it and I play around. Now the problem that we often have is that when you live with other people, they're gonna feel like they have the right to say something about that. So maybe you have siblings, maybe you have a brother, maybe you have a sister, and maybe you have parents, or maybe you have roommates or flatmates, or maybe you have a wife or a girlfriend, and then you feel really insecure about learning to play the guitar, and then you take the guitar, and let's say everybody's at home. Let's say you live somewhere and everybody's present. All your friends, all your teachers, right? Everybody you've ever met is in that room. And now you have to sit down on a cushion and start playing the guitar without knowing how to play it. So you close your eyes, you make a sound. And probably at this point, 10% of the crowd are going to scream, boo, right? Or they're going to say, that's a terrible job, mate. What are you doing? I'm just singing a song for you, my friend. What have you got to say? What have you got to say? Oh yeah, you don't like what I'm singing? You don't like my song? I mean, you can just make fun of them, but take yourself serious, because you can basically channel your insecurity of learning to play the guitar into a song. You can say, I don't know how I play the guitar, but now, I get very far. The words are coming bit by bit. One thing I know is I never quit. I have a lot of experience just picking up something and doing something with it. Where some people think, oh, what am I supposed to do with this? How am I supposed to touch this? It's like, maybe you're in a relationship, or maybe you're already married, and you don't know how to engage with your wife. How are you supposed to touch her? Well, how would you touch a guitar, right? How would you touch your car? You don't go and scratch it. No, you're very gentle with it. A woman likes to be felt. A woman likes to be touched. A woman likes very sensitive, right? She likes, that you just take your finger and very gently trace the line of her body. She likes to be appreciated. And you can do the same thing with the guitar, right? I mean, I don't know in what position you're in, if there's a woman in your life or not, but I know that my hands are very gentle, and I can do this with myself even. Sometimes I feel lonely, and then I can do this, right? I can stroke myself very gently with the tips of my fingers. And when you're with a woman, that's what you do, right? You start stroking her. You give her attention and love, and she will repay you. And so you take an instrument, you just say, make the sounds that you like to hear. And, the metaphor I was using, or the image that you are in a room and everybody you've ever met is in the room with you. Like even your idols, even people you only, have met from a distance. Everybody's there. Your favorite musician, the people you put on a pedestal and you think, oh, they're so nice. Well, what do you think what would happen if, let's say, you were really fond of Johnny Depp? And now Johnny Depp would sit there and listen to your concert amongst hundreds of other people, and you would go like this. Oh, Johnny Depp, I really like your movies. I really like your movies. He might say, oh wow, I like this song. But what if you would say, la 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 la, bum 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 bum. might still say, oh, I kind of like this, but you don't know. Because it's not very skillful, right? I mean, you haven't really practiced this. So it's gonna be a bunch of shit. So the thing is, what you need to realize that, you know, the way I do it, I sometimes pick up the guitar and then I do things. But to me, knowing, you know, or having the feeling that this guitar is a bit shit doesn't really inspire me to work with it a lot. Which is actually stupid. But I also have to acknowledge I do a lot of things at the same time. So I haven't really spent a lot of time playing guitar. I just do it when I want to make a song. And then at the moment it's enough for me to just do very simple things. But if I would now have nothing else to do, I could just do this the whole day. And then you become very good at this. Because your fingers first have to get used to this, right? They have to be able to find and hold the tunes. So you have to try them all. You know, I don't look online for finger positions, right? I sometimes look at people playing the guitar and then I try to imitate them because that's how I learn. I look at people and then I try to get there myself. Yeah, and then I just have to learn how to place my fingers. How does the tune sound now? And you may think this is very tedious, but to me it's very smart. Why? Because if I spend time teaching myself how to get first a feeling for the guitar, at one point all I have to do is pick up the guitar and then play from the heart, because that's my goal. I want to play from the heart. And the reason I want to do that is because I like this kind of flow state, right? And I can only be in flow, I think, if I play what's inside of me. So learning to play the guitar to me is a form of expression. I want to express my feelings. And usually people that watch porn and masturbate, you know, they are afraid of their feelings. And that's why they masturbate, right? They run away from their feelings. So what to do instead? Well, basically anything. Anything you ever wanted to do, you simply say, I'm gonna do that. Wow, I always wanted to learn how to cook. Right? Wow, I always wanted to do Tai Chi. I always wanted to do Kung Fu, right? I don't know what you want to do. But my feeling is channeling your frustration into aggression isn't really that good. So to find a Kung Fu teacher that really teaches you the basics of Kung Fu, where Kung Fu actually isn't so much about the combat, it's about the connecting with yourself and training your body to toughen up, right? To me, Kung Fu actually isn't so much, I don't do Kung Fu, but when I look at it, the practice is more important than having battles. Because why do you have to have battles? You know, that's for people who like competition and all that. You know, I don't have to have that. I don't want to physically hurt another person to make myself feel like a winner. I can feel like a winner simply by winning all the obstacles or all the treasures that I see along the way. So learning how to cook, very important. You know, figuring out your diet, very important. Right? How do you like to eat? How do you like your day to be? If you imagine it, would you be outside more? Go for hikes? which you like to juggle. I trained myself to juggle, but what I realized is, for me, I like to have something that has a meaning that carries me through the day. And that's why for me, working for the government has no meaning to me, because all the government is interested in is making money. And I'm interested in sharing what I taught myself with the community so that more people can start doing things instead of wasting away at home and watching porn or movies. And that was my goal. And I continued doing that. And I realized after 25 albums, that now I'm working on cycling through habits. I quite like my music. And the really interesting thing is that although I have already made so many albums, they still keep changing. But at the same time, I would probably also have to say that there's probably a certain similarity to my music. Because I can't really, right? I don't really listen to my old songs, I just make new ones, right? I make a song, I release it. I don't make the kind of music where I learn the lyrics by heart so that I can perform them. No, I do something on the spot. I feel a certain way now, and then I want to make a song out of it. So I first write a poem, right? And the poem I then put into kind of a rap song, or I sing it, depending on what I want to do with it. And that depends, right? Sometimes I feel like singing, sometimes I feel like rapping, sometimes I feel more like talking. I mean, I can even just write poems, record the rain outside, and then make footage. You know, I can record nature or something, and I can simply release that. Now, when I see a person like that young kid, that's a kid, I don't know, he's completely dressed in black and he's walking around smoking, I want to go there and tell him, stop smoking, man. Stop smoking. Smoking is so stupid. And people do it to look cool. You may even watch porn because you think it makes you look cool in front of your friends. Because that's what you have in common. But then just look for other friends, as hard as this might sound, or start inspiring them by saying, hey, I started playing the guitar, man. No, I started playing the flute. Where is it? I mean, there are so many things that you can teach yourself like this. It's just something. Can I do it with the left? Oh, wow. Wow. I mean, there are these pen tricks that people do. We did that in school. Wow. Right? You have it like this, and then you flip it around your hand. You can just start that. And then there are other things. I mean, people do all kinds of, depending on how bad you want to stand out, probably, or train your fingers. So sometimes I just fiddle around a bit. Because if you imagine a person living in a tribe, well, there's nobody to teach him how to play music. He simply has to find the music in his heart. And I don't have anybody to show me how to do this, so I have to do it myself. I have to listen. So I also have to detach myself from the way I think this should sound. this is, for example, this is how they taught me, right? Wow. This is how I like it much better. I remember there was a woman in Jordan that was in the city called Petra, which is a city completely made out of sandstone, was carved out of it, and now it's just a tourist attraction. And we were walking around, and there was one woman, and she had a flute, and she was just doing. And I remember that I was there with a friend, and we kind of were joking about it. Well, she can't really play music. But what is music? What is music? It's a sound. I mean, I can hear music in the wind. Well, that's not music. You know, some people hear you performing Mozart and they say, whoa, oh, that's music. Yes, sorry, but, you know, I have my own style, right? You know, I'm a free spirit. You can't catch me with stuff like Mozart. You know, that's 200 years old, or I don't know how old it is. It's probably even older. You know, that's like, these times are over. You can't catch me with that shit. You know, I have to find my own way. I have to do my own thing. And that's what I'm trying to do. And I don't practice nearly enough as I could, but I want to play by my hearing and my feeling. And when I do is, you know, this is something I have since I was very young, very young. And if you want to play the flute, you can look up, for instance, you know, I like this. This makes me really happy. There's somebody called Arto. I'm gonna look him up. He makes very good music. You can look at Arabian flute music, right? What I like to do is I like to look at all kinds of different styles, and then I try to repeat that. And the same with my harmonica, right? It's something to produce sound. And it's singing, right? If you feel a bit depressed, you can sing. It makes you feel better. And it brings joy also to the people around you, even though they are complaining. But sometimes we are so used to complaining. Sometimes you really have to stand up. So if you imagine yourself being in a room full of people and anything you want to do that stands out a little, you know, some people are gonna cheer for you, say, hey, wow, you know, nice try. You know, at least he's giving it a shot. And then there's other people that say, you should never do this. And then there's people that just turn around and leave. But that's just how it is. I mean, you're still practicing. And a lot of people that I meet or that I see, they think, you know, you should just be able to do it, right? If you're not a genius and you don't have the talent and, you know, it just comes easy to you, then you're just no good at it. And everybody has these really high expectations. You know, they think, you know, if you pick up a guitar and you play, then you should know how to do it. So you go to a music school, and then the music school teaches you how to play, you know, the little duckling or something. And then they teach you, that's how they try to teach me, like single notes. But that's not how I learn. I learn by doing it. I don't work well in these rigid rules. And that's why I like to be, you know, self-employed. Why? Because I have my own rules. I have my own ideas. You know, I have my own mind. And I like to shape my own life. You know, I like to decide when to go on holiday. I don't want to ask somebody. You know, I want to say, now I go on holiday, and then I go on holiday. I want to say, today I do this, today I do that. I don't like people telling me what to do. And that's the problem. If you work for other people, they always try to control you. And that's when you're at school, yeah, sure, they try to control you. So you can fill your day with things like this. Because that's what really frustrates us, is that we are surrounded by people who are always trying to keep us small, right? They're always trying to push us down, right? Your teacher's gonna say whatever he's gonna say, you know, he's gonna give you bad grades if he doesn't like you. And they're gonna act like you can't do what you're doing, right? Sometimes I've had situations with people that I would have considered friends, and we were working together and I was doing what I was doing, and then they came and they said, no, don't do it like that. I thought, what do you want? I'm just doing what everybody else is doing, but you come to me to teach me something? Because they wanted to be the teacher, right? They wanted to be like, oh yeah, I give directions here. So sometimes people, they don't even want you to do what you're doing because they are afraid that you look better or you're better at what you're doing. You have more strength sometimes even. And then they try to suppress you. Well, then it's your choice if you allow them to do that, or if you just say, you know what, do your own stuff. Yeah, so I spend a lot of time alone, because when I'm alone, I can just do what I want. And there's nobody in here that says anything about my music. Nobody ever commented on it, but I also made sure of that. But I'm also at the age where you can actually, you know, get the respect. So, right, I don't know what your situation is. Maybe your parents are really happy, open people, and maybe your parents are really miserable and all the time in a bad mood. Well, you know, you don't have to take the guitar and like do this, right? I mean, that's just making noise. You know, you can be a little bit respectful of your surroundings, and you can say, instead of singing like, you can at least try to make good music. Hello world, where are we today? Life is a bit crazy, but you know, hey, 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 this is the way we go. And when you start singing, it's probably going to be more like, hey, you know, very gentle, very sweet. But the more you practice, the stronger also your voice is gonna get. Hello, dear world, I live in a pile of turds, and I would like to change this. I would like to change this once in a while. That is my style. I fumble around with the strings of this guitar, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Yeah, sometimes I just also feel a bit awkward, and then I start trying to be a bit funny. And even that can be a song, right? You know, I made some songs like this where I just fumbled around with the guitar and then I said, you know, I don't know what I'm singing about, but I'm singing anyway. I have no idea what this song is about, but I'm singing it anyway. 'Cause the song is my life, and every day I make a step into the haze. I live in mist that is okay. So I don't know where I am going to go from here. It's true. I have no idea what tomorrow brings, and that is the beauty of the adventure. It's the beauty of the adventure. The beauty of the adventure. There's a guy called Attica, and he makes very good music. But his voice is a little bit like, you know, he's just craning on the top of his lungs. But he also didn't continue. You know, he found a girlfriend and then he simply stopped making music. And he settled down into some kind of boring, I would call that a bit mediocre life. That's what his music is showing. You know, I try to be at least a little bit serious about it, because I don't just want to make music to sing my misery into song. I want to make music because I also want to, you know, I don't want to be in marriage and be completely dependent on what my partner is doing. And that's what a lot of people do. They get sucked into relationships and then they just sit around. They either go to work, and when they come home they do something with their partner, but they don't have any private life for themselves, right? They merge into this relationship and they completely forget that they are individuals. Well, what if your partner dies? You're gonna be lost. I don't want to be lost. I want to know what I can do so that I'm prepared for whatever happens in my life. And so I teach myself a lot of things, but I also learn my lessons. I mean, I've shown you this already. The Rubik's Cube is a very good way to engage with yourself. So if you have a day where you're stuck or you don't know what to do, well, pick up that thing and start fiddling around with it. I mean, I looked at an online instruction manual to teach myself the steps, but eventually you learn them by heart. And then whenever I feel like I'm stuck and I don't know what to do, I use this as a form of meditation because it clears my mind. And when I'm doing this, you know, it's a method. You know, some people have these prayer beads, right? And you just move them around because it gives you something to do, and then you can focus on what you actually feel like doing. So sometimes I do this, and then while I'm doing this, something else comes up, and I realize, oh wow, I actually wanted to move my body, right? That's also the thing, move more, you know? When you feel like super anxious to masturbate, you can just do this. Bum, 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 bum. You can even make sounds with it. Hey, yo, hey, yo, hey, yo, bum, 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 hey. Or you go and shower. And something I always do is I shower first warm and then I shower cold. I first shower warm and then I shower cold. And then I find very important, because if you shower warm, you feel super soft. Oh no. But I want to, I shower warm to relax, and then I shower cold, boom, so that I keep going, right? It's always about keeping going. If I'm too tired to do something, I sleep. If I'm too tired to do something, I sleep. Well, and all the other times, I do something. So I simply keep myself busy as much as I can. And I think that's all there is to it, but what you want to do really depends on what you have available. I always suggest to people, use what you have. Use what you have. And if there's something like an instrument, if you have money, then use the money. If you have money, use the money. If you want to have an instrument, get an instrument. But don't get 10 instruments, get one. And then first practice with that. If you want something, first think about it. Wait, do I really want this? Right, and then you try to feel into this. Okay, is that really the instrument? First look at certain options and then make a choice. Because if you just buy something randomly, it might not be what you actually wanted. So I was looking into this Rubik's Cube and I played around with somebody else's, and then I realized I really want this. I want to keep doing this. I like it because this is a symbol for my mind. My mind is all cluttered, right? My mind is all confused. So I have to bring the pieces into the right place. I have to look at everything that I have in my life and sort it out. So pornography may be now somewhere where it doesn't belong. It's maybe on an active side, but I want it to be inactive. I want it to be something from the past. It will always be a part of my cube, but I just don't use it as a method anymore. I want it to be something that I did and that taught me something, which is pornography doesn't bring happiness. Pornography brings no love. It makes me feel more miserable. That's the teaching that I got. As long as I watch porn or do these things, I can't do other things. But that's what I really want to do, right? I want to be active. I want to have meaning in my life. I want to give something to the people that feel a little bit like me. And for that, isn't that a reason to be strong? Also as a father, or as a father in the future, that you can have children and really teach them how to live. But for that, you first have to teach yourself. You first have to teach yourself how to live. So this is one way how I train my mind to look for solutions, because I have a solution-based mind. And this is a very rare thing in this society, or this system, or this world, because you always have people that they don't really look for solutions. Because in order to look for a solution, you have to really look at the problem. So what's the problem? Why are you really watching porn? And what's the solution to fix the problem? Because watching porn is just like covering up the problem with more shit. And so how you can do that is, well, you have to really sort out your life. Because if you just stop watching porn, then what are you going to replace it with? Because this is something you do right now. If you don't do that, you have at least maybe half an hour a day where you just do nothing. Well, you could use that to simply relax. Or you could do that and you say, instead of doing that, I'm just going to go for a walk. And you're always trying to get back to that for a while, because it's what gave you pleasure. It's what made you feel good. Solving the Rubik's Cube also feels good. But to me, that's one thing that I do. What I also do is I play chess, online chess. And at the moment, I don't really, if you're really vulnerable, then losing sometimes is really hard. So at the moment, I'm losing a lot. So I just train, I do chess puzzles. And you start with the easy ones and then you work yourself up. Because at least when you lose, nobody sees you losing, right? And that's why I also like to work out at home alone. So you see, I can talk and I can still do this. But it's sometimes better to be silent and to focus on what you're doing, because it's easier, you know, if you're trying to do a lot of things at once, it's really, you know, you lose your track of what you're doing. Unless you've practiced it a lot. So if you've practiced not watching porn a lot, then that certainly becomes a lot easier. But I like to focus on what I'm doing. So normally I would sit in silence so that I can focus on my next move, right? It's always the next move. Okay, what next? What next? You know, what haven't I done yet, you know? You sit around and you think, you know, you let your mind wander. You turn off the music. There's no, you know, your phone is on silent. And then you sit around and you feel a bit nervous and anxious, and normally you would watch porn and masturbate, so what do you do instead? Suddenly the image, you know, the urge to write comes up. Suddenly in your mind you see a pencil. That's how it works with me, you know, I work with images and feelings. Suddenly something comes up, like, wow, a vision of what you could do. You see yourself hiking and then you think, do I really want to go hiking? And you say, you know what, let's just go hiking, let's just go outside, let's just see what happens. And then you just go somewhere where you feel like going. And sometimes you don't know where you want to go, so you just start walking. You just, you know, take a backpack or don't take a backpack, you know, bring water, don't bring water, take an apple, don't take an apple. You know, you just have to start doing it. And you see the image, you know, suddenly you have an image how you sit there and you draw something. So you take out a pencil, doesn't matter which one, you know, can be anything. You take a sheet of paper, whatever you have available, and you just start drawing. You just start drawing, and you start drawing more and more, and suddenly you're drawing all kinds of things, and suddenly you have, I don't know, you can share these things, but that's up to you, because if you start sharing online, you might get sucked into getting likes from people, and that, you know, that's the trap of people sharing stuff. You know, what they want to do is art, but then they're insecure about it. So they start making art, and then they sit around waiting for people to say something to it. But that's not why you wanted to make art. Why you want to make art is because you felt like it. So keep feeling like it. Because then you know, if you wait, you sit around and you wait for other people to comment or like your art, but you're supposed to like it. You are supposed to like the music you're making. I like the music I'm making. So why do I need other people's opinion? You know, I have to like it. And because I like it, you know, I liked it when I made it. And then you think, but is it good? It doesn't matter, man. I mean, there's people who like all kinds of weird things. I mean, there's people who like really weird things. And what I'm doing is not the standard kind of thing. This is really specific. This is very individual. What I'm doing doesn't exist. So, you know, I brought it into life. I gave life to my creation, and I simply continued. Okay, at first, I didn't really show anyone what I was doing. I was creating already. I had hundreds of artworks that I just did. I mean, you can see on my channel how I'm doing them. And more methods came in, and I got, you know, you could say better at it, or my art started changing. And when I had a lot of it, then I started to make my Instagram account, but I also turned off all comments on all posts, because I realized I don't want people to comment on this. You know, I put it there. If you want to look at it, you know. but it's not. This is an inspiration for people to do their own thing, not to waste their time on commenting. And so I also hide the like count, and that's the same for my YouTube channel. I turn off all comments. It is not for you to comment on this. If you want to do something, do it yourself. Don't sit around and judge my work. Because if you don't have the stamina or the balls to do it yourself, then what is your opinion worth? You sit around at home and you feel miserable, and you want to comment on my work, your opinion means very little to me. You could even say it's worth nothing, because you don't have any experience, and I didn't ask you for your opinion, so why should I listen to what you have to say? Why should you have the right to leave a comment under my work? You know, this is me opening up to the world. I don't have to share this. I share it because I want to. I like sharing, and so I'm sharing. But I'm sharing on my own terms. I'm sharing because I want to inspire people to keep doing whatever they want to do and to just learn from that. You know, the reason why my music is like a very raw thing that started to get more shape is because I simply started doing it. And sometimes I was talking to people and they said, yeah, you should first, you know, practice your music until it's very good, and only then you should release it. But I don't want to do that because I wanted to start. And so I started and I immediately released it. I create something, I release it. So otherwise, what's the point of creating it if I'm holding back on it? Because I don't want to be insecure about it. This is what I made. This is what I could do in the moment that I was doing it. And so here it is, right? Do something with it or do nothing with it. I mean, even if you listen to one of my albums, you might think, oh wow, you know, that he could have done better. But the truth is, no, I couldn't have. In the moment where I was doing it, I was dealing with the emotions that I put into these songs. So this is the space I had for making music. I couldn't have made this any different. You know, when I'm busy facing my own emotions, you know, I cannot think about being perfect, because that's not what life is about. Life isn't about being perfect. Life is about living. And I'm living it in the way that I can live at the moment, right? And so sometimes, you know, I'm so busy teaching myself something, I let everything else stand. So I don't go for hikes at the moment, because right now I'm doing these kinds of things. So I'm just inside the whole day. I wake up and I spend most of my day thinking about how to be creative. And when I feel like I'm at the end, I just sleep. Yeah, and sometimes I do this or I do that. But my whole mind is on being creative. That's what I want to do. And I'm in the position, nothing takes me out of being creative. So if you have school holidays, you could say, you know, there's this movie, it's called Whisper of the Heart. It's an anime. And it's about exactly that. There's this schoolgirl, and she meets a boy, and the boy inspires her to do something for herself. And suddenly she realizes, well, what are my goals in life? I don't know what I want to do. But somehow people tell her, and this is roughly the story of my life, you know, I was writing my dissertation and people told me, this is very good. You know, whatever you're writing, it's very good. You know, I didn't know that. But some people kept telling me, and that's what inspired me at one point to write my first book about fear. Because what I realized is that science wasn't really meaningful to me, so I wanted to have something that gave meaning to me. And so I started to write, and I started to write, and I expressed my feelings with writing, and then I expressed my feelings with talking, and then I expressed my feelings with music, and then I expressed my feelings with art. You know, and then I brought it all together, and I just made one thing out of it. You know, this is the whole thing that I'm doing now. You know, it's music, it's drawings, it's movies or videos, it's, you know, my voice. That's all I have, and I'm using that. You know, I'm using what I have available. and I just see what comes out of it. And this is how I like it. I like doing that. And I don't like flattery. So I try not to flatter myself. To me, I don't make a song and then I praise it, you know, I like it. Sometimes I listen to my songs, but I try to stop that. Because what you have to realize is you're not really making this only for yourself, also for others. So if other people come and flatter you, just don't listen to it. Because it's not about getting likes for what you're doing. The reason should always be you wanted to do this. It doesn't matter if other people want you to do this. Because for the last 2 years, nobody really wanted me to do this. People even told me to stop doing this. Even people that said they were my friends. Right? They kept telling me to stop doing it. Well, how are these people friends if they don't even want to support me? Because they're afraid of doing it themselves. So I said, you know, cheers, man. I have no interest in spending time with you anymore. So I just stopped. If you can't be happy for me, right? If I send somebody a song, why does he have to criticize it? Why does he have to say something negative about it? Well, you send me a song, I want to give you my opinion. Well, what is your honest opinion? Because I already knew what he was going to say. He was going to criticize it. Oh, this is a bit like, you know, oh yeah, no, the music is a bit too much. I don't need that kind of feedback. Why? Because he sits at home. I send him a song that I made. He doesn't go to that length to make music. He just says, oh no, I don't make music. You know, he stops with his podcast, he stops making YouTube videos, so he gave up on this. He just reintroduced himself back into the system. This is what he did. You know, too bad. I can't help that you don't have the will to push through, to fulfill your own dream. That you just want to live like everybody else. I don't want to live like everybody else. Because I don't like how everybody else lives. I don't like how much they spend time on their phone. I don't like how they smoke. I don't like how they speak. I don't like how they look down on me. So why do I need these people in my life? That's really the question I started asking myself. I spent Christmas, although I live with other people, I spent it alone in my room. Most of it. Right? I had my own meal and I sat alone in my room. New Year's Eve, I spent alone in my room. Because I realized this kind of celebration means nothing to me anymore. I've done that enough, you know, it's meaningless to me. Because what are we even celebrating? The destruction of the planet? Exploitation of the earth? What are we celebrating these days? How many trees we can cut down? Is that what we're celebrating? That we're creating fake solutions for problems that are rooted somewhere different? I mean, electric cars are a fake solution for a fake problem. We say climate change. What is changing the climate? Where we're cutting down all the forests, and forests cool the climate. And we look everywhere else. We say it's the cars. Yeah, so we need different cars. Yeah, that's what the industry wants. So I'd rather talk about these things. I'd rather tell people, hey man, you're really unhappy, you should start doing something. Because the more people wake up to this kind of stuff, the earlier we can start creating a better world. Because the way it's going now, people don't even have grass in their gardens anymore. They just have gravel because they're too lazy to tend to their garden, right? They don't want to have this kind of work. They just want to sit at home and watch movies. well, it's like as boring as it gets. It's as boring as it gets. And that might be your parents, right? That's the people you see all the time. I don't want that, right? I don't want this kind of life. I want to be in nature and do my own thing. I kind of turned my back to a lot of the stuff that is happening. But I didn't turn my back to ignore it. I just say, I see it all the time. I see this shit that is going on. I see all these lies that they're spreading about health and whatever. I'd rather tell people how they can lead a better life, how they can be more happy, how they can work with their fear. Because that's what ultimately helps people to free themselves of all these traps. So, what can you do when you don't watch porn? Well, the question is, what can't you do? What is there that you couldn't do? I mean, you can do everything. You can cycle, you can start carving things out of wood, you could make even your own pipes or flutes. I mean, there are so many things that you could do. Maybe, you do like smoking cigarettes. Well, then instead of buying them, learn to roll. At least, that's a step out of it. I taught myself rolling because I wanted to use my hands. And then bit by bit, that was one way of learning to do something. But I also wanted to stop smoking. But at first, it's transitions. Instead of just buying cigarettes, just buy tobacco and start rolling yourself. At least you're teaching yourself a new skill. And from that, maybe you realize, oh wow, I mean, if I can do this now, maybe I can even do other things. I never thought I could roll cigarettes, but now I know I can use my hands to do things. And suddenly you want to do more things. Suddenly you realize, oh wow, I mean, I can roll cigarettes. I mean, that's really a major step for me. So what can you do from that? You do all kinds of things. You just pick up things and you start teaching yourself things. Whether that's the Rubik's Cube, or whether that's, I don't know, painting or carving, or walking on all fours. That's a really big challenge. Doing slacklining. I mean, you can teach yourself physical things. You can teach yourself things with your mind, right? Chess is more in the mind. And I like that because playing chess helps me to overcome obstacles. I start seeing, because if I keep losing in chess, what does that mean? I don't see the whole picture. I'm just focusing maybe on the king and I want to kill the other king. Or maybe I'm too focused on keeping my own king safe. But then I don't see all the other pieces that I have available. And that's what I realized, as I was playing chess more, I started to get better at it, to see all the different connections to myself also. And then, okay, now I have to start moving. And then it's also this, it's black against white. But in the middle is the observer, who observes the whole play. And that's who you are, right? We talk about the higher self. You have this observer, where you can observe yourself in your surroundings. So, if you really observe yourself from the perspective of an outside viewer, how you sit around watching porn, you realize it looks very pathetic, and you could do better. Now I'm just going to check if there are any comments, and if there aren't, that's it, right? Alright. There's just nothing. Damn. Alright, that's it.